Morning, welcome, dear learner, English student, English man. I hope today lecture will be last lecture of July lockdown 2020. Our decision will be taken in August. Further, it will decide. I hope after giving 30 lecture in July, you will be benefited, and I hope my lecture will never go in vain. Dear learner, I don't want to take more time in background of this lecture. Today we will discuss Elizabethan Age. Elizabethan Age in the history of British literature has a different role, a landmark in the awakening of people. Moreover, I used a word, French word, rip. Rip in British literature, in India, it is said rebirth. And really this rebirth in Elizabethan period of English history or Renaissance. It can be said Renaissance age or Shakespearean age. Now, I don't go back Chaucer period or Anglo-Saxon period. I would like to focus you on Elizabethan period. This rebirth, reawakening, innovation, exploration in this age. Queen Elizabeth was the Queen of England at that time. From 1560 to 1603, she died in 1603, but after that James I became the King of England and he ruled till 1625. Now, what experiment? What type of humanism came in this literature, came in this period? It is not hurly-burly, but it was awakening, revival of learning. The Renaissance came in England after France and Italy. Then it came in England in the 16th century during the period of Elizabeth. That is why it is known as Elizabethan period, Shakespearean period, Golden Age. Golden Age in the sense that the Roman Catholic Church, the Pope was very tyrannical, despotic, fascist. In front of church, man has no importance. He gives no value of man. In his mind, that I came on this world to rule. I am incarnation of God on the earth, direct messenger of God on the earth, big shadow of God on the earth. That was the doctrine, the principle of Roman Catholic Church. It was very tyrannical, despotic, a fascist power. So Martin Luther could not tolerate it. So King Martin Luther started movement from Italy, and this Renaissance, reawakening, revival of learning came in 16th century of Finland after Italy and Europe. And then it became a historic period because humanism came, scientists came like Leonardo da Vinci, Copernicus. It was revival of learning in this age, in the sense that before Renaissance, that was dark period. No movement, no literary movement, no revolt against Pope. That was dark age. The earth was a stat and flat. There was no emotion, no sentiment. Geoffrey Chaucer, a 14th century writer, was not less learned than Shakespeare and Christopher Marlowe. But in 16th century, Shakespeare wrote 44 dramas. For instance, Macbeth, Othello, King Lear, that are tragedy. And Christopher Marlowe, a famous book, Dr. Faustus. Just I will take your 2 minutes time to examine Dr. Faustus' character in Christopher Marlowe drama. Dr. Faustus was so ambitious that he wanted total wealth and power of England. That was his dream, that was his vision, that was his thought. So ambitious character Dr. Faustus, Christopher Marlowe presents in his drama. Shakespeare, a versatile genius, profound scholar. He has written a volume of stuff. After God, Shakespeare exists on the earth. Passion spin the plot. That is the miracle of Shakespearean drama. Tragedy, the good man distress. The traditional notion still survive today. The death of salesman is also tragic. An anti-hero stands up like a pioneer of epic theatre cannot do. Conformity to Aristotle points out that a tragic protagonist must be a noble man who has fatal flaw, who commits an error of judgment. Tragedy can be happened due to inner fault of the hero, and it can also be happened due to circumstances. That was the concept of tragedy in Shakespeare modern in 16th century. Dear learner, welcome back. Coming to the actual aspect of Elizabethan period, Elizabethan tenure, the end of Roman Catholic Church in this period. New church came, that is Protestant church. And this church was very generous, liberal, given full freedom to writer to write. From every angle, I will give you freedom, political, social, economical, all type of freedom, so that the Shakespeare and Marlowe created, written volume of stuff. If Chaucer belongs to that age, he was not less learned than Shakespeare and Marlowe. But due to Roman Catholic, the impact of Roman Catholic Church in 14th century, Chaucer could not succeed. In spite of all these things, despite Chaucer wrote contemporary tales, and this book was published, an audience appreciated like this book, but not famous, not renowned writer like Shakespeare and Marlowe, due to Roman Catholic Church. The flourishing period, the successful period of 16th century due to Protestant Church. The Roman Catholic Church existence finished in 16th century during the period of Elizabethan King of England. So, dear learner, however, I will discuss the humanism came in this era. Let me define humanism and data humanism. A simple humanism means glorification of man. That is humanism. That came in 16th century Elizabethan period. But when we talk about data religion, data humanism, it is digital concept. It is digital humanism. It is orientation humanism, communication, alienation. That is 20th century impact. Data humanism, data religion is the impact of 21st century. The modern and post-modern writer use this term data humanism, data religion. But in 16th century, the humanism was popular, which I have defined the concept of humanism. Shakespeare, the wonderful dramatist, not only dramatist but poet, sonnet he wrote. Poetry he also wrote To His Love, that is famous, which presents abstract and vague ideas. Very difficult to define To His Love. Abstract idea he is presenting, vague ideas. And I have given example of Christopher Marlowe, his persona, his character is Dr. Faustus. So this age is miracle age in the history of British literature. A landmark, significant, most significant point about Shakespeare and Marlowe credit goes in Elizabethan period. Shakespearean age, it can be said. Victorian age, it can be said. James, after the death of Elizabeth in 1603, James I became the king of England and he ruled till 1625. There were so many things happened. Theatre, drama, retail. Theatre were reopened because it was closed during the period of 14th century, in James I period. Women are allowed to go in theatre. Even they perform our role. There is no ban. There is no difference between male and female. Even they perform our role in theatre, they can pay equally as male and also female. So everything became independent in 16th century, Elizabethan age. Because the most barrier was Roman Catholic Church in the 16th century, before 16th century. And so the barrier finished and independence, democracy came. In 16th century, it can be said. I have used the French word "re." That means rebirth. So this Renaissance, Elizabethan age is a rebirth in the history of entire history of British literature. Dear learner, you must keep in mind. I have used French word in the sense that you are a student, a learner of English. So that you must read French, Scandinavian, German, Latin, American, etc. languages. So I prefer to use sometimes Italian, French, Chinese, Scandinavian, Latin words. As a professor of English, you are teacher of it, you are a student of English, learner, dear learner, you know the focal point, the central point of this period, what happens, why these writers dominating in this age and created a wonderful thing that is paramount paradigm of the writer vision. No, the writer, scientist and philosopher have secondary vision. Imagination, sensibility, thought, perception, science and perception, the difference between science and perception, science and reality. Scientists came, as I have discussed, Copernicus and Leonardo da Vinci, in the 16th century during the period of Queen Elizabeth. So, this is historic in the history of British literature, in many aspects, in many sense. It was an age of innovations and exploration. It can be said undoubtedly. Dear learner, welcome back. Touching the last point of this era, this is Queen Elizabeth. She died in 1603, and when James I's successor became the King of England, he was also a Protestant-minded man, not Roman Catholic-minded man. So he gave freedom, cool opportunity of writer. That's why, and this is how, in spite of all these things, Shakespeare and Marlowe created miracle, drama, poetry, sonnet. Novels were not written in that period. But the lackluster of Shakespearean personality in the 20th century writer remark is, particularly a salient remark about Shakespeare is, Shakespeare could not touch a world literature. He was limited in London, Africa and Europe. That was modern writer approach, most modern writer approach. But at that time, Shakespeare was the stalwart, tallest, biggest personality of Elizabethan period, Renaissance period. This age is also known as Shakespearean age. Consider this powerful imagination, hypersensation, sensibility, reaching this potentiality in Shakespeare. That is the charm of Renaissance period, Shakespearean period. 16th century Queen Elizabethan period is remarkable in this point, as we have discussed, and touches all angles of Elizabethan period. You are a student of English, so you must keep in mind about this Elizabethan period. It is essential and mandatory for you as an English honors student, the English man, to become Shakespeare, Milton, Marlowe, T.S. Eliot, W.B. Yeats, William Butler Yeats, Percy Bysshe Shelley, T.S. Eliot, and the modern American novelist Henry Miller has a different approach in the world of literature, touching the universality, not individual. His thought become universal, personal to become universal. Shakespeare, the versatile genius, the stalwart personality of this age, known as Shakespearean age in the Renaissance period. Dear learner, it is mandatory for you to know about Elizabethan age. Without knowing the concept of history of English literature from all period, what were the position, circumstances of England, the social history of England, then you will understand the English history. And without knowing English history, you can't succeed in this subject. So it is essential for you to know about the position, the circumstances, and how the poet came, writer came, in which ages, and what was position of that ages in England and Europe and Africa and almost all world. So you read more, I suggest you, and you receive my thought, vision, sensibility, English potentiality of English professor, English man. Receive my thought in your mind. So I hope that after given 30 lecture, today will be the last lecture of lockdown July. We will enter into August. What decision have been taken by Chancellor, Vice Chancellor, you will know. Then you will try again for online lecture. That will be benefited for you. So I hope that you receive my thought, vision, nullifying, about to conclude. Must keep in mind as an Englishman, eat English, walk English, sleep English, drink English, everywhere is English. About to conclude, long life, comma, long life tolerance, long life innocence. I have finished my lecture at that point. Thank you with good wishes, all of you.